James Melendez, thank you for joining me today. This is a short video on enabling and instituting effective meeting culture, creating a culture for smart, effective, and process-driven meetings. So basically in this video, this is a shorter version. I have a longer version. I'll place that video right up here. Now this cartoon shows what happens in a lot of meetings. Probably 90% of meetings end up going like this. So here's a meetings word cloud. Very important to think about this, and pulling out any of these, you could probably identify with some of these, if not many of them. Now, the thing that I'm most concerned about is personality-driven meetings. And that really doesn't include maybe a senior manager or a CEO, because they're calling the meeting, they run the organization. But it could be somebody else in the organization. Maybe it's an individual contributor and they're driving a certain meeting. And is there really a purpose for that meeting, or is it a meeting just for that individual? And that happens quite a bit. So I think this is something to think about in terms of culture, how to rebuild that culture or create a meeting culture so that is not taking place. So this particular slide shows some really interesting metrics. The time measure here is between, say, 1972 and 2014 as it relates to the number of meetings. You have 56 million meetings per day, which is an increase from 11 million meetings in 1972 to 2014. There's an expensive cost for this. This is $213 billion. I would argue it's actually more than that. It's probably $1 trillion or more. Now you can see here in this particular slide that there's multitasking during meetings, 92%. That's almost everyone. And then you look at 1 out of every 2 is doing unrelated work items. This should be a huge call out for organizations. That means your team members are checked out. They don't care enough to not even look at work email. They're actually doing things they find more productive or more interesting or more helpful to their lives. And that's doing unrelated work items. I'm not going to read the rest. You can stop here and see some of these particular point outs that I think are really essential. So thinking about developing a meeting culture at your organization. Now, where to start? Now, there are 4 pillars, and I believe these 4 pillars are essential to creating a meeting culture, an effective meeting culture. Now, first you're going to look here, that creating a culture is required. You cannot just submit or institute principles, because those alone will not move or drive to more effective, efficient, and fewer meetings. And you can look at this in terms of everyone has a part to play. Everyone can and should participate. Instituting this plan is supported by executive management. Now, Team Excellence is a specific tool, methodology to support improved meeting culture. Team Excellence Pillar. Now, this is a specific methodology to improve meeting culture. Now, there are specific tools such as a Team Excellence Charter and Agenda that help to drive and to keep meetings in place and to keep them more disciplined than they are today. And I think these tools can help out to make meetings more meaningful. Now, the third pillar is learning. Methods don't teach themselves. It has to be taught. It has to be learned. There needs to be a learning plan for all members to adopt and to utilize and execute to this particular enhanced and improved meeting culture. And you can also look at growth mindset. This is really keeping that mindset that helps to adopt and maintain a culture of robust and improved meetings. You can chart your course, and you begin by creating the plan. The plan is essential. It's something that's going to be endorsed by your management team, your leadership team, your executive team. And then you complete a training for each of your members for improved meeting culture. You execute, and then you also put goals in place to make sure you're measuring all the meeting activities and there's efficiency occurring. There's fewer meetings that are happening. If that isn't happening, you find a way to course correct that. And then you have a specific feedback and sustainment period as well to keep the culture going. It's not something you do once, it's something that's maintained. It's actually analyzed and reviewed. So effective meeting culture, it's ready, set, go when you do the following. These particular buckets are going to help out. So you identify an executive sponsor. At the same time, you're going to identify who's going to own this, who's a process owner on this, who's a business owner. Is it the chief of staff, continuous improvement manager? You want a specific person, so you want this particular individual to lead this effort, making sure that they own it, making sure that they're sustaining the model, making sure that they're actually analyzing the results of this particular initiative. So that person will also create the plan. They'll set the goals on a yearly basis. How might this effective meeting culture help your organization? Now, there are principles. You can look online right now and find a lot of principles, but principles can't improve meeting culture. It has to be a much more fundamental change in how an organization approaches this. You can look at this in terms of the meeting organizer has specific things that they should be looking at and things that they should be doing. Just one point out here, I'm not going to read all of it. You can stop the video and look at each of these particular principles. So if somebody's starting the meeting, they should look at the meeting charter. It's really thinking about this in terms of like a checklist. This checklist is something that you can actually execute and help the team to think about consciously what they're doing by setting up a meeting. It doesn't mean that meetings stop happening. It just means that there's more discipline about the meetings that are occurring. Now, this particular participant meeting culture is important for everyone. Everyone has the ability to, participate. That's why I say number one, participation is important. Around the table should be the norm. This meeting culture is to be more efficient. It's to empower each individual contributor. Perhaps there's meetings that that person doesn't believe they need to go to or should be able to decline. Today's culture doesn't really allow for that. There's some punishment that goes along without accepting a meeting, without attending a meeting, even if you don't need to be there. So I think this culture is about opening up. It's empowering each individual contributor. So both these principles for the organizer and the participant are things that each of them can do to improve meetings. It doesn't mean you're going to have no meetings. It just means you're going to have much more disciplined meetings. It's going to be more meaningful to the organization. It's really, empowering people to think differently about meetings. Often we don't even think about the meetings. We're just told to go, or we see an invite on the calendar and we just show up. We're not really asking consciously to each other or really holding each other accountable why we're having the meetings. What's the rationale? What's the purpose? Can this be reduced? There's a lot of words and verbiage you can use as a contributor or a leader and organizer for a meeting. And this can actually help the organization to be more disciplined, to be more crisp, and to allow for more time for each person to have fewer meetings and to actually focus in on their core business activities and responsibilities. So one-on-one meeting agendas, I think, are really important. And I think this is a time soak for many people. I've had many managers who want to meet weekly. I don't need 4 hours when I need an hour. And that manager can focus in on things that's important to that individual. So when you look at all these things together, they actually come to thread the needle just a little bit better, a little more effectively. So if you're the recipient of getting a one-on-one and it's a standing meeting one-on-one, you might ask why, or is that really necessary? Can it be an occasional meeting? And I think in this meeting culture, it's about, respecting people's time and allowing for pushback. So you can reach out to me. You have questions and comments, list them down below. I'm a huge proponent of creating better and effective meeting cultures. So more information down below, questions and comments, please list them. So you can look at the longer video for effective meeting culture right up here. And please reach out to me if I can help your organization. I'd love to do so. So thank you so much for watching today. I really do appreciate it. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. I really do appreciate that. And give a like to this video. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you soon.